this new thing.
Welcome to the Encouragement Engineering Podcast, where we combat the negativity that inundates our daily lives with a positive perspective and positive action. Today's guest is Lauren Abrams. Lauren Abrams is a founding member and managing partner of the law offices of Lauren Abrams. She has been exclusively protecting the rights of employees for over 22 years. What's interesting is Laura started the uplifting weekly podcast, 52 Weeks of Hope, after going through a tough period in her life. On her weekly podcast, you hear from thought leaders, activists, elders, and other visionaries who share their journey through difficulties and uncertainty, emerging, knowing that we don't have to do this life thing alone. Lauren also has authored numerous articles on the rights of workers and has been heard on ABC News, Good Morning America, and KNX Business Hour. She is also surviving life with two eye-rolling teenagers, two happy dogs, and a fabulous life partner. So please welcome to the show, Lauren Abrams. Lauren, thank you for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Bob. I'm looking forward to it. Plus, I love the title. Anything to do with uplifting, encouragement, I'm in.
Yeah, and that's what I liked with your show notes, and it was so interesting because it's like we need that hope, and it's something I think our society needs. Not only daily, but as you do weekly. That those good, healthy reminders are always a plus. So
absolutely.
If we can, let's tell the audience a little bit more about you, because you have an interesting background. You're a lawyer and you have 52 Weeks of Hope. Tell us how you got there.
Okay, yeah, definitely. Because there's a definite divergence, because my 52 Weeks of Hope has absolutely nothing to do with my law practice whatsoever. My law practice, I try to be of service. I am of service completely. And we try to meditate in the afternoons just to take the energy down, but it's been bad since the pandemic, so I'm not going to lie, But my 52 Weeks of Hope, it came out of my own dark period where my law practice, it's always been thriving. It just has, and I don't mean that from any kind of way other than there's always employees. I'm not a mill. I'm very picky about the cases I take, but there's always wrongfully terminated employees. I've always had pregnant women who were discriminated against, either when they tell their employers that there's always been a need for the kind of work I do. I've always done this exclusive area of law. But anyway, at a certain point, I went through a really hard time financially. The money wasn't coming in. I was a single mom. I didn't know how I was going to feed my kids. And I just think it's important to tell that side of it too, because as entrepreneurs, we all hit hard times. Actually, you don't even have to be an entrepreneur. Everyone has their turn in it. Nobody goes through life unscathed.
Right.
Everyone's going to have their turn in it. Yes. And I went through it, and there was a period of time I didn't know how I was going to feed my kids. I had to pay my employees. You have rent. They have, and there's all the responsibilities. And I came out of that, and because we do. Everyone goes through it. The only way through is through.
Right.
Through 52 Weeks of Hope. Listening to everybody's stories of their hardest times and how they got through it, and their message of, really the only way through is through, and we need community and things like that. But anyway, when I got through mine, I was like, what the hell was that? Because really, I was like, I was kind of in shock by the whole thing. And I thought, I always heard nobody on their deathbed ever wished they worked harder or made more money. Right. So I was like, okay, so why are we here? I was kind of on a personal quest. I was like, I really why are we alive? One of those kind of moments. And so I decided I was going to ask kind of an older demographic, why are we here? What have you gleaned from living your long life? And I decided to ask a person a week for a year. And just kind of a project. I don't do projects. I'm not a DIYer or anything. I'm like, okay, I'll just ask. And I started asking people. I'm not a shrink or anything, but people would divulge the most personal information to me. I was shocked.
Wow.
And unbelievable. And after a while and I'd go home and I'd write it up in my own verbiage with kind of funny, not making fun of them funny, but just write up what they had told me. And after a while, there were certain similarities, and it was rich, and it was just so good. I thought, I'm going to make one of those books, the 52 Weeks of Hope, the books where you open it up and little vignettes and you think, that's exactly what I needed to read, or one of those kind of books. Right. And but then COVID hit, and I had to do a pivot, and so I started a podcast And I just started interviewing all these amazing religious leaders of all these different religions. And it's just been so incredible. And the messages are still kind of the same. We need community.
Right.
We don't do this life thing alone. We're not meant to.
No.
And
And that's a big thing that people forget is, the DIY, as you brought up earlier, you do it yourself. Well, we don't have to do life ourselves. We can't. There's billions of other people in the world. And so many people have done what you've done or gone through what you've gone through. And as Tony Robbins says, this too shall pass. And they've gone through it and lived it. And like you said, that's a great way to get those experienced insights from people that have already done it and gone through it.
yeah,
So,
definitely.
you
And
know,
the people that live the longest and the healthiest, because that's to me a very important component too, is the healthiest and happiest in the blue zones. They
yeah.
do it with community. That is the
Wow.
component.
Okay.
And so anyway, that's so.
I appreciate that you mentioned those blue zones because a lot of people may not understand what those are, but those are the areas in the world that the people live, they're centurions and they live very long lives.
And
And
happy and
yeah,
healthy,
happy and healthy and
not just long. I don't want to live long if I've got no mental
right,
capacity or no ability to enjoy it. No
right,
enjoyment.
right. And it's interesting because a lot of those places are I believe in the Mediterranean is one in, I believe Hiroshima is one of them. And then is it Greece or Italy? There's one. But it
But they're
was,
small. They're
yeah,
small. They're
small,
little towns. There's a random place, someplace in Orange County, California, or in the San Gabriel Valley, like in really someplace in Southern California that is so random.
right,
And it's because they have very close-knit families.
right. Wow.
Yeah.
And that's really something because, I mean, okay, you're practicing law where it's black and white, sometimes gray, and you got to define the black or white. And it's, if you will, hardcore. And what's interesting is you said you take time to meditate to ease that tension. So you step away from that so you can basically go clear your head and get re-enlightened. But was that the reason for the 52 weeks? I mean, you went through trauma or, your own financial crisis, if you will. And then, being in law all the time, and that's a hardcore, heavy industry, if you will, that there's a lot of emotional burden. And do you see that helping you with some of that crossing over?
People have gotten really mean in law. I mean, in the
Yeah.
last year and a half, like really unnecessarily mean. I just don't understand that at all.
Mhm.
And it's not my place to enlighten anyone. Like
Right.
there's enough people that really want to live happy
Right.
and enjoy. And I mean, I heard somebody recently say there's always been fires, there's always been earthquakes, there's always been disease. And you can choose to look at that, or you can look at the joy and where there's forests
Yeah.
and the ocean and nature and babies and the things, whatever it is that lights you up. Whatever we focus on grows. So if you want to look at what makes you happy, then do that.
Yeah.
So this lights me up, and to be around people and then to help others, that's the stuff that makes me feel good. So
Right.
I'd much prefer I'm trying to be diplomatic and not put down the law.
No, and that's totally understandable. I
It's,
understand that because that is, that's your business. And but it's just there's such a divergence there where it's happiness or hope, and then you have like you said in law, everybody, it seems like people are very bitter, and it's hard sometimes to deal with that.
I'm a litigator,
Yeah.
so it's just, yeah, it's not that pleasant a place. I've always loved what I do
Mhm.
until a year and a half ago. It is the
Wow.
first time I've not loved it anymore.
Right.
I'm just being honest, I'm
No,
not one to
yeah,
ever make anything up forever.
yeah,
I'm very much an open book, and I've always been really, really grateful for my life because I didn't start at some high place in
right.
something, and my parents put me through school, and then and all that. Like I put myself through,
Wow.
and I worked really hard to get to where I am. And so I'm always really, really grateful. Like, oh my gosh, look at me. Like, not look at me from an ego place. Like, oh my gosh, look, I mean, the imposter syndrome stuff that seems trendy these days. Like, I can remember being, 10 years into being a lawyer, walking around court going, oh, all these people, they think I'm a lawyer. And I am. I went to really good schools and everything, but like, you still get those waves of I'm fooling them. But I'm not. I actually am a lawyer with a full practice and stuff. But
and nobody asked you to see your college diploma, do they? They don't care where you went to school.
No, they don't care.
So, if you didn't go to the Ivy League, that's okay. You still got the law degree.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, my kids, I just wanted them happy and well-adjusted. Like that is my goal.
And to be thankful and work hard. That's one of the things that often I remind younger students and younger people that, life isn't going to give you anything. And the people that care most about you are your teachers and your parents. When you leave those doors, nobody cares whether you make it or not.
Yeah.
So you've got to be prepared to, pick up your big boy pants, big boy girl pants, and get moving on life, because it's not going to be handed to you. So.
Yeah, I heard you speaking to students. I really, really like what you had to say.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. So you mentioned in one of your bio items, it mentions your faith. Does that have a lot to do with what you do in not only 52 Weeks of Hope, but, who you are?
Yeah, and that's something that has emerged slowly. It evolves, which is why it's called faith. I mean, if it was a fact, it would just be placed in front of us right here, right? Like,
sometimes I wish it would be.
Yeah, right. Me too. But I'll be like, okay, God, I need you to tell me something. Be blatant. I'm not getting the message right here, because I'll get I know when I'm doing something wrong. I'm putting my hand on my gut. Like, I know I get that feeling in my gut, like this is not the right thing. Don't do this, like that kind of a thing. And my kids are like, I don't believe in God. I go, you don't have to. You can just believe in energy, and that you can't stop the waves from coming in on the ocean. Just believe it's general kind of big things. But when they were little, I can remember being in the car, and I was in between the second and the third birthday party with the two of them in the car seats, and my daughter said, Mommy's talking to God again. And my son said, what's God? And my daughter rolling her eyes, because even as really little kids, little girls have attitude. And she said, you can't see God, Brett. You can only feel God, like the wind or love. And I thought, I was like giving myself kudos back then, like, wow, that's good. That's good. And I was like, she would deny that to the, hilt today. But, that was back then.
It's out of the mouths of babes, right?
Right. Exactly.
I've got 3 boys, and they were younger, and then all of a sudden there's a switch that turns when they turn 15, and you're like, who is this person?
That's okay. That's okay. I was like that. I mean, I don't know, who knows, but at a certain point I developed that open mind and was like, oh yeah, maybe. And
you see the benefits of the learning and the growing, I think, as we get older. But I'm with you. I wish there's many times where God could, he needs to use a 2x4 sometimes to get me to, pay attention. So
whenever I need a message and I say, okay, be blatant, I'm like ducking, like, what? I'm going to be struck by lightning. No, but
that's funny. Well, what are some actions that people can take to be their best self? You mentioned about being your best self. What are some things people can do to do that?
Okay, so for me, journaling gets to the root of when there's something going on. Journaling is a huge thing, just to get to. I just read yesterday, I'm trying to think of who it was. It was so good. But anyway, it said like getting through an iceberg. You might have this idea, or this slight idea, but when you start journaling, you get to the underneath. And it's from the hand. It gets to the heart.
Right.
And typing on a computer, nothing does it like with a pen to paper. And to actually write. I don't know why that is, and I don't need to know why. I was told, don't even bother asking a question if it begins with why, because who cares why? It's more important. Yeah, exactly. Why question stuff? And that is like an amazing tool just to write. And also, if you're mad at someone or you've got this resentment, write a letter, burn it. Tear it up. Don't burn it. We don't need fires, but like
especially where you are. Yeah.
Like throw. Yeah, definitely not. But don't send it, and then write a letter from them to you. And it's unbelievable what comes out and how powerful that is.
Wow.
One of my my mentor gave me that one.
Okay.
And somebody I just interviewed on 52 Weeks of Hope, we were talking about all the different letters. You could write a letter. Then the third letter is from God back.
Wow.
And which is really like, it's a very loving exercise.
Yeah.
To do.
And that's a great thing about journaling is that, like you said, that growth, that honesty, and you've got to be able to write everything. Don't skip it because you don't want to write it. It happens. It's in your head. It's in your heart. Just write it down.
It's always shocking what comes out too, because it's not for anyone else. That is just to get it out. It's the most cleansing experience, and then just move on. People that journal first thing every morning are so clear about themselves. Mm-hmm. That meditation, even if it's 5 to 10 minutes in the morning, to connect with source energy. It is an amazing thing, and it just makes me okay with whatever's going on.
Right.
That's it. It's that simple. Doesn't matter what's happening around me. I'm okay and centered.
And that's important to know, because stuff's going to happen to us all, and it does. And as long as you're centered, you can get through it. You know that you have the strength, you have the wherewithal to get through whatever it is that's going to come your way. And I think that's an important reminder for people that, we have greatness within us, that we're always going to get through whatever it is. I lost my mother at the age of 6, and I remember getting ready for her funeral. And I still remember it to this day, the sun was still coming up. And I thought to myself, she's not here, but the sun's still coming up. The world still turns. And that's that thing of, okay, we can't hold on to everything forever. Yeah, it's a sad situation. It's a time to get through it. But the fact is, the earth still turns. The sun's going to come up, and life will be moving forward. And knowing that, having that groundedness, I think is important. So you have that strength and those abilities to get through those things.
Yeah. I interviewed Rabbi Chasen.
Okay.
And he was amazing, talking about how you're never really going to get over this really sad things that we go through, but community will carry you through those tough times. I don't do the way he said it was so beautiful.
Right.
I don't do it justice. But it's such a great episode when he talks about what community can really do. I've interviewed lots of religious leaders, and even an imam or iman. I say it wrong all the time. And one of those means faith, and one means like saying a rabbi or priest or something. Like one's correct.
Okay.
I was like, okay, there's such an education in this.
Oh yeah, and that's what's interesting too with this, the whole scenario. Like you said, you pivoted to bring about a podcast. That's what happened during the pandemic. We can go all over the world with situations like this. We can learn, we can grow, we can share the information with people. And that's what we're doing, is we've got that world connection, world community of people and these type of events. So
it's so true. And he told me the Iman, I'm so sorry. And I expected him to be in full regalia, like, I don't know, on his head and robes. I don't know he looked like a dad from Arizona. He just looked like the most regular guy. I was like, oh, in my head, I was like, oh, okay. It's really funny. And he's founded all these centers, and he speaks a lot, and he's just regular dad looking guy, anyway. And except I said his title wrong, but besides that, and but he was so gracious about it, funny. That's and normal. Great. But and his wife's a teacher, and his kids were all on Zoom inside, so he actually did the interview from his car.
That's
just
funny.
Yeah. But
peace and quiet.
Yeah, right. But he said the most interesting thing. He said because he's Muslim, he said the easiest and fastest way to get over discrimination against a Muslim is to meet one.
Right.
Isn't that something? So all we have to do is meet. So he started a whole program pre-pandemic, but where his mosque would get together with I'm
Uh,
sorry, a church group,
right.
and they just fed the homeless together in Santa Monica
Wow.
every
Okay.
Saturday. And nobody said, "Oh, I'm Muslim," or they just fed them together. Everybody
Right.
met each other, and then they would all eat together, and that was it. And that was how he said, as long as we meet each other and know each other, which there's so many programs like that where people sit across the table from each
Yeah.
other and have a meal.
Yeah.
Suddenly everyone's a save.
Yeah. Yeah. We all bleed red,
Yeah.
I mean, and we want good things for our family. We want to grow. And yeah, why not? Get to know the person. It's so many of these ideas and beliefs come about because we don't communicate with each other. Like you said, we don't partake in that breaking of bread.
Yeah.
Jesus did that with the Last Supper, didn't he? He's always at a wedding or,
Right.
community,
I know. So it's
that's,
kind of great. I guess Zoom did make the world a little smaller in a lot of sense,
it
where
definitely
where
did.
we can do this.
Yeah. Yeah. And educate ourselves, educate others, and see the differences and understand them more. I think that's the biggest scenario is we need to understand more of what others do and their viewpoint. We don't have to yell at each other to get our viewpoint across.
Yeah.
Well, it's you mentioned something as well in one of your bio items. It says creating the life of your dreams. That's always interesting to me because I know people are always, oh yeah, I want to have all these great things. How do you help people to do that?
Yeah. So there's a few ways, and because I was taught we could do or be anything we want, anything at all. Sky's the limit, as long as we're willing to do the work, which is what you were talking about earlier. Yep. I was taught God doesn't drive parked cars. I can't sit in a corner and go, God, give me this.
Yeah.
It's about action.
Right.
I just interviewed somebody who was talking about, it's the energy of hope. There's everything has a different frequency and an energy. And she's like, the energy of hope requires action. I was like, yeah, that reminded me of God doesn't drive parked cars.
That's funny. I like that.
We have to take action.
Yeah.
So it's to be clear on what it is that we want. And if you're not clear, I actually have a really simple ebook on my website, 52weeksofhope.com of, just to get clear. It's simple. They're just, and again, it's taking pen to paper to get clear. What is it? Think big. Think big. What is it you want? You want a relationship? Do you want a business? Do you want a new house? What do you want? Close your eyes. Do you see it? Can you feel it? What's it look like? Get really specific. I don't drink coffee, but people always talk about Starbucks. When they go into Starbucks, they're like, I want an iced latte, hold the this with an extra that. They're very specific. What do you want and how specific? Okay. Do you know someone who's doing it? Find them on social media. Start asking questions. How'd you get there? Because you're not going to invent, you don't have to invent the wheel. That's a good thing of these days.
Right.
There's a way to do it. Find someone else. Don't call them your mentor. They've got plenty of people, I'm sure, that they're busy. But follow their path. Maybe they have a book. How'd they do it? How'd they get there? Start doing the action. Because if you don't take action in the first few minutes when you have that thought, it's not going to happen. You need to take an action and do it right away because you have great ideas. There's no way you don't have great ideas. Right. God didn't put that idea in your head for no reason. You were here to do something. Everyone has a unique footprint. Every single person on this planet. And you're here to do something. And it's you get to. Yeah. We all get to do it. And there's all these people that want to help you and support you. And the naysayers, get rid of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't be around people that vibrate and want to see you succeed. And I keep looking at encouragement and encourage you, and that live in joy and are happy.
Well, it just makes so much for a better mindset. And like you said, more action gets done when you're positive. It doesn't matter what you're going through. If you're positive about it, it's going to get done. You're going to feel better about doing it. Yeah, your hands may hurt after doing something because you were out digging, a garden or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
You feel good about the accomplishment that you're able to do. And that's a great feeling. And then it builds that strength and it builds that mindset. Hey, I've done that. And that goes into your subconscious mind. Wait, I've got to win here. And then you can draw back on that win and say, okay, next time I'll do it again because I've already done it. And
Yeah,
so,
that's so great. And we're both smiling if you're just listening. And smiling, by the way,
yeah,
that just releases oxytocin to your brain. So even if you don't feel like smiling, if you just smile, it will release oxytocin to your brain, and
yeah,
then you feel better, and then you can take an action. So I interviewed somebody who said, I don't believe in acting as if. I believe in acting as if. Stick a smile on your face even if you don't feel like it, and that releases some chemical, maybe not as much as if you really feel like it, and then you can step outside, which will help also put your
oh
feet
yeah,
in dirt. That also like grounds you. There's something about putting your feet in dirt.
yeah.
I wrote an art. I have, see, this is the stuff I love, in case you can't tell. Talking about law is not lighting me up like this. So I have an article that I wrote. It's on Medium, but it's also on my website, about 7 ways to make yourself happy, feel better right
Okay,
now. And
okay,
and I did. This is the research I like, not the legal.
yeah,
And so stepping in dirt, like any kind of movement at all. You can dance, but you don't have to. Put
yeah,
on your favorite music loud, like
right,
anyway. And once you start doing that, you'll be like, oh yeah, I wanted to do this. I wanted to call a friend, see how they're doing,
right.
see how someone else is doing, and then you can take action on your dream.
And it's important too. You mentioned calling a friend because so many times we forget to do that, and we don't want to remember our friend when we're reading their obituary.
Oh yeah,
Call them, see how they're doing, and if they're not doing so well, you can try to cheer them up. You can tell them some things, like you said, you're doing. Get outside and bare feet, walk in the grass if you can, see the greenery around you. Do something, get outside to feel that energy, get that vitamin D on your body.
yeah,
And if the conversation continues to go negative, well, maybe it's time to hang up, try back later, and
yeah,
there'll be,
yeah.
you can always hang up the
That's,
phone. You don't have to
that's
sit there and
good.
listen to that and drain
Yeah,
yourself of what's going on, because sometimes people just want somebody else to complain to. And I get it. That might be their release valve, but you don't have to carry it. And
right,
so,
right.
you can try back later, see how they're doing, and then move on from that point. So,
Yeah, yeah. Play happy
yeah,
when you hang up. Like, yeah, release that stuff. You don't have. You definitely. I love that. 3 to 5 minutes is enough of somebody venting, going, "Okay, well, I got to go. I got to get back to work. I just wanted to check on you."
yeah, yeah, definitely. And so, what are
Yeah,
some? I mean, you light up when you're talking about this. What are some other items you mentioned? So,
yeah. So, going outside is good, dancing, but also taking that action. And so, one thing, like I read something that really resonated with me.
hmm.
I went, I really want to do that. So I went and found out who started it.
Oh, cool.
I
Okay.
just I just Googled it,
Yeah.
and found out who started this. Emailed him. He emailed me back. We arranged a time to talk. We talked. He told me I made a call like this 7 years ago, and that's how I started this. And I
Wow.
said, who did you call? So I arranged a call with him too. So I covered all the bases so
Wow.
that I can start doing that, because I thought this was all a really good idea. It's how I got on Good Morning America. All those things you listed,
Yeah.
all that stuff. It's because it started with somebody had started some show, and I congratulated him and said, and by the way, this is a kind of law I practice in case you ever need an expert in this area. You don't need to practice law, by the way, to do this. I
Yeah.
mean, I
No.
could do the same thing and say I talk about hope.
Yeah.
Who doesn't
And
need that after the
yeah.
pandemic?
Yeah, and Good Morning America has those segments of positivity. Granted, to the last 5 minutes of the show, but
Yeah, so
if they
what?
had 40 minutes of that and then 10 minutes of the negative stuff, we'd probably be better off. But
Yeah, and I started on local, though, to say I've been on local.
right,
And then, so I mean, you can do it on encouragement. Like, you can give me any area. Like, if you want to do something, you can do it.
yeah,
I mean, the sky really is the limit. You can do anything you want.
yeah,
It's, what do you want? You want the best relationship? Look at people that are in the best relationships, and don't talk to people that go, oh, relationships don't work. Oh, there's no one out there. There's no one to. There are so many great people out there.
right.
It's just not true.
Definitely, it's a perspective. I really think it is. So it's always great because yeah, people need to take the action, and that could be as simple as asking a question, like you said.
Yep.
I've gotten some great podcast guests because I asked the question, said, "Hey, I have this podcast. Would you like to come on as a guest?" Their publicist may come back to me. They may come back to me. You come back to me as I sent you an email. So
Yeah.
it's asking that
So
question. Sometimes it's as easy as that.
Yeah, and so when I was wanted to transfer into UCLA, I found out I wanted to be a communication major. And then I found out the communication major at UCLA only take 100 people a year, and of that 100, only 25 from outside of UCLA.
Wow.
And I was looking for another major when a friend of mine said they take 25 people a year from outside of UCLA, and I said, yeah. He said, why not you? And I
Yeah.
mean, I had been looking for another major at that point.
Right.
And I said, oh, yeah, why not me? I graduated in 1994 as a communication major from UCLA. I spoke at the graduation. I went on to USC Law School, and got my master's too. It's those kinds of things when, I mean, it takes those little things. Why not you? Yeah, why not you? If you don't try, you never even have a chance. If you don't put your name in the hat, your name's never going to be pulled out.
No.
I used to have a thing in my car that said, God never gave us a dream without giving us the strength to carry it out. You've got this.
Good.
Everyone
have you ever read
has
Mel Robbins' book, 5 Minute, what is it? 5 Minute, I just drew a blank on the action title, but Mel Robbins.
I've heard her TED Talks. I have not read her books.
Great book, because it talks about some of the things you're talking about. Get up and take that action and do it immediately.
Yeah, that I know from her TED Talk. I absolutely.
Same concept.
Yeah. So it has to do with my podcast. I read something and I was like, I have to find out about that. It's a whole thing about staying independent. And it was just such an interesting concept to me. I was like, I need to find the person that, anyway, and I thought, and it's been years since I heard that TED Talk, but I was like, oh, you have to take action right away or it won't, you never will. It's just another thought or another grand idea.
Yeah. You'll find yourself, moving away from it because it was past the time or whatever you think it was. So why not go after it?
And by the way, when I started my own practice, my friend said, you should start your own practice. I said, I won't know what I'm doing. She said, nobody does. She said, I'll help you. And somebody else said, oh, yeah. And, you just find other people that have done it before. There's people that have done it before.
Right.
It's like podcasting. I knew nothing. I'm not even a big podcast listener, but I just started. Whatever. It's just talking. We all talk.
Yeah.
Okay. I've taken so many depositions anyway where I ask questions. I'm like, and I'll ask anyone anything anyway. So
there you go.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good show then.
Yeah. Right.
Well, Lauren, tell people where they can find more about you, where they can get your material, your website, etc.
Everything is on my website at 52weeksofhope.com. All the podcasts, podcasts are everywhere that podcasts are. I can't imagine there's any place they aren't, but Apple, Spotify, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
But they're also all up on the website. And the free ebook, How to Be Your Best Self Now, is up at 52weeksofhope.com. And there's some chapters from that book I was talking about.
Okay.
And as it continues, the chapters are great. Anybody who's a basketball fan, Rudy Tomjanovich, who was just inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame, I had interviewed him when it was still just a book, and he talked about no matter what pinnacles of success he reached, his head would be like, Rudy, you're not all that. Wow. His head had been telling him that for years and years and years. He was just inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
He took the Houston Rockets to the title how many times? The U.S. Olympic team won the gold. All this stuff, but his head, no matter what height he reached, kept with the, Rudy, you're not all that. And until he let other people in and told them, it's just an interesting kind of thing. His chapters, it's short. It's like a page and a half, whatever it is. I did it very succinctly. It's not just us that thinks like this. Even the greats, that's why I love this. And the only way through is through. And he told other people, and now it's just part of his story. And it's just, it's just interesting. Anyway, my website, sorry, it was a very long-winded answer. 52weeksofhope.com is where everything's on my website.
Well, we'll be sure to put that in the show notes and make sure people have that so they can get a hold of you and follow you on what you do, because I really appreciate it. I love the idea of the hope, the energy you give with what you do. So thank you for that. Thank you for taking the time to be a guest on the Encouragement Engineering Podcast. I really appreciate it. So I just want to say thanks again, and I hope you have a great day.
Thanks so much, Bob.
All right. Thank you.